Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I wanted to talk a bit about DAZN because I want to sort of clarify a few points because I've made a couple of videos before and quite recently actually, and people have been saying, "Well, what are you so down on DAZN for?" And blah, blah. Look, I've said that I want DAZN to succeed. I'm a big fan of it. I love the concept of the Netflix of boxing or however you want to call it. I think potentially it has a potential to get rid of pay-per-view, which is one of the things I detest most about the modern game. But let's not confuse issues here, okay? The videos I've made in the past have talked about how DAZN is losing money hand over fist. And if you're talking about the business model, that's obviously a bad thing. They're losing money. And especially if you want something to be successful, to continue to take over from the status quo, it's got to be viable, financially viable. And at the moment, it isn't. Yes, if you look at their figures, they're losing. I mean, everything's marginal, isn't it? It's all relative, but they're losing less money as the years go by. That's the way it seems to be. I'm talking internationally, not just the UK market. But they're still losing money. I mean, they've still lost, what was it, $4 or $5 billion over since 2019 or something. I mean, it can't go on like this. And I want it to go on, not the losing of the money. I want DAZN to go on. I want it to succeed. Now, another thing people have said to me is, well, what do you care if a billionaire is losing money? What do you care? Well, how short-sighted can you be? I don't give a fuck about billionaires. I don't think billionaires should even be allowed to exist. I think they should pay, large amounts of tax. The more you take out of society, you should put back into it. I'm not a laissez-faire capitalist. I'm an old-style socialist, and I don't believe, or democratic socialist, I don't believe that anybody who is honest, who is morally correct, can become a billionaire without exploiting others. If you make £1 billion, you should be paying a lot of that back to the people that helped you make it. Whenever a billionaire says, I got to where I am through hard work, ask them whose hard work, because it certainly wasn't just your own. And I'm talking about billionaires, but this applies to, multi-millionaires. Look, talent should be rewarded, but this idea that people become billionaires and they've done it off their own back, and I want to aspire to be like that, and you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know how many people they've trodden on. You don't know what they've done to people. You don't know who they've screwed over. And it is almost always the case in business where it is a morally bankrupt environment, a morally bankrupt atmosphere. It's not something I don't believe in free trade. I believe in fair trade. And that's why I believe that government does have a role to play, in a government that is answerable to the people, and regulates business so that it cannot exploit others, which it always does. You look at Amazon. Have you ever worked in an Amazon warehouse? If you have done, you'll know what I mean. So I don't care about billionaires. I just don't care. Eddie Hearn is spending someone else's money, and he's putting on good shows. The quality of DAZN is very good. And he is the only international, as far as I can tell, the only international promoter. Italy, Spain, Mexico, the US, the UK. I mean, you name it, he's there. He's put on some fantastic shows. Even last year, and I'm no fan of Eddie Hearn, by the way. This is not a fanboy thing, because Eddie Hearn made me rich over that Conor Benn thing. I think he was totally disingenuous. I think he tried to spin it. I think he just talked nonsense at times. He was totally obscurantist about the truth, which all could see. No, Eddie Hearn revealed a lot of his true colours during that whole business. So it's not a case of liking Eddie Hearn. I don't care about Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren or Ben Shalom or Bob Arum. I never cared about Don King, who was another vile, I'd call him a psychopath, Don King. I really would. I don't care about these people. I want good boxing. Okay. And if Eddie Hearn is spending someone else's money and putting good shows on, I think Hearn gets a lot of criticism that's unfair regarding the quality of the shows. But again, I repeat, if you want DAZN to succeed, this hemorrhaging of money can't go on. Now, let's say that DAZN does eventually, peter out, fizzle out. I think Hearn's going the right way about it, because if you're an old punk rocker like me and you, in your youth, listen to the Sex Pistols, you will know that their manager, Malcolm McLaren, was very much a sort of agent provocateur. And he once said, in fact, he said it on more than one occasion, and it's actually on his tombstone in Highgate Cemetery where he's buried. He said, better to be a spectacular failure than any kind of benign success. Meaning that success can be boring, can be dull, it can crunch the numbers, it can, people can sell records, for example, and 10 years later they're just not remembered. Certain actors come along, or should I say Hollywood stars, and they're the flavour of the month for a while, but then 20 years down the line no one really remembers them. TV shows is another thing. Better to be a spectacular failure than a benign success. And I've got a feeling if DAZN was to go, shall we say, bosoms northwards, that people will look back on it and look back on Hearn and Matchroom and say, do you know what, they failed, but Christ, they put on some good cards. They did some good stuff. Yeah, I miss those days. Because if DAZN is going to crash, it will be, I think, a spectacular failure in the hands of Eddie Hearn. Whatever you think of him, and again, I wouldn't trust him as far as I can throw him. But then Malcolm McLaren, who was the Sex Pistols manager, who came up with that quote, he couldn't be trusted at all either. So just because you don't trust someone doesn't mean that they can't have the right idea about carving out a little niche in history, whether it's a glowing success or whether it's a spectacular failure. So that's where I stand on DAZN. Let me know what you think. What do you think of DAZN? Do you want it to succeed? Just give me your views. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. It takes a second to hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it if you do that. And the like button, that helps us out as well. And we got the Liam Smith, Chris Eubank Jr. card over the weekend. I'm going to be doing some videos on that. Looking forward to it. Check in with us. And again, thanks for your time. We shall speak again soon. Meanwhile, take care and bye for now.